Okay, cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Megha Sood, and I am hosting this event, which is the Matwaala New Books Showcase. And Matwaala is basically a South Asian diaspora poets collective, and it's a community of poets whose origins go back to South Asia. It's like India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Nepal, Bhutan, Maldives, etc. And their mission is to promote South Asia poetry in the American literary landscape and collaborate with other arts in the North America through festivals, publications, and mutual supporting other people in the diaspora. So this is a very special year for Matwala. It's been co-founded by Usha and Pramila, and I'm so glad and honored that they are joining this event as well. And this is one of the annual events which Matwala hosts every year, and they have completed their 10th year this year. So it's one of the events commemorating the anniversary. So yay to South Asian diasporic poets. I'm so happy and honored to host and showcase this event. I'll be showcasing like 10 books, including mine, and there are 10 brilliant poets, 9 brilliant poets we are showcasing today. And everyone will be talking about their books, whether they are published last year, already published this year, or forthcoming. Okay, so as I move on to the
जी
first
बेटा.
one, uh, can yeah,
Yes.
and can everyone please mute themselves except for the
It,
person
it
who's
hasn't
reading?
started yet. They're just doing the introduction.
Okay, I think it's Feroza. Can you, Yumna? Can I please ask you to mute yourself?
Okay.
Okay. And before I start introducing the poets and they start showcasing their work, I would like Usha to say a few words about Matwala. It's such a special year, and we want to hear more what the Matwala collective is doing as a whole. Usha,
Uh,
on to you.
hi, Megha. Hi, everyone. I love it when I look at a screen and know almost everyone. And what is so wonderful about this year? Look, everyone's smiling. Look at you, Indran. You're just beaming. And Indran has reason to beam because he's our poet of honor this year. So a round of applause. Indran is one of our most amazing poets, and it was so special to award him and honor him in our small way and to have him here again. Srinivas, I do know for 2 or 3 years, and congratulations, Srini. I'm so happy that your book is in hand now. Feroza, I've just gotten to know. Anita, you've done an event, a literary event, a journal event for, you did a special section for Setu. Everybody I look at, there's some contribution that's happened. You may not know that Diya, at the age of 17, has had her first book out. And she runs the youth wing of Matwala with Sarah. Pramila, of course, needs no introduction. I wouldn't be here without her. Megha is a risen star on the East Coast in the South Asian community. And she taught me some very vital things on knowing how to look at Google Maps and walk around. So I have this connection with every one of you that's so special to me. We're doing our 10th anniversary. Very, very proud. It started in my living room with Pramila, and we decided to just try and be the change we wanted to see. There was not enough visibility for South Asian poets. And we said, let's, we whined for a good many years, whined and complained and cribbed. And then one day we said, let's stop cribbing and stop whining and let's do what we can. And today we see the power of what poets can do if they become proactive. And we wouldn't be existing here without any of you. Some small statistics to show off: about 122 poets have read with us through the end of the year. That's our statistic: 122 poets. 10th anniversary, collaborated with the Academy of American Poets. Pramila is hosting certain events. Everyone has contributed in some ways. So thank you very much. I think, there's a crazy story about Indians and Indian crabs in a pot. I think we've all heard this. How Indians tend to pull each other down and are not exactly harmoniously, like a pot of crabs was sent overseas, and these were Indian crabs. And by the time it reached the other side of the Atlantic, there wasn't one single crab that got out of the pot because every time one crab went up, others pulled it down. So this is kind of metaphorical of our general mindset, but I think we established Matwala to kind of extract and tap into a very, very different sense of self, that the self is incomplete without community. And I think that's what we are here to establish. And we keep hearing about the camaraderie and kinship and lack of competitiveness on our platform. And that's how we will continue to do it. I think that's about it about Matwala. I don't want to take this time belongs to everyone, so I don't want to say too much. Um, yeah, back to you, Megha. Thank you for doing this, and very eager to hear about your books.
Thank you so much, Isha. Like it's so beautifully said. And yeah, the crabs in a canister, yeah, metaphor, it's very much true. But at the same time, it's the thing is like we all want to work together and we live in camaraderie and supporting each other. As I said before, like we were started recording that no artist can exist in isolation. You need a community, not only to enrich yourself and to get the support, but also learn from each other and grow, both as a human being and as an artist. And I strongly believe in this fact. So, based on this beautiful emotion of supporting each other and showcasing the works of each other, I want to start this event. And the first poet who's going to be reading for the new books showcase is Ashna Ali. And before I give a very formal introduction to Ashna, the first thing I want to mention is I met them at the Dodge Poetry Festival. And the first thing, the thing which stayed with me that Ashna, they were giving like a panel, and in the end, one of the high schooler poets, in the Dodge Poetry Festival, there's also a time when the high school poets they also come and like ask questions to the panel and everything. So there was this student and a high school student, and they were writing poetry, but they had this confusion about their validity from the family and from the identity and everything, and they were going through that tough phase. They need validation from everybody around them. I mean, they were not sure of how to write, but Ashna kind of responded in such a beautiful way that it kind of like it left me with an awe that this is the kind of the thing we that need around us in order to encourage the young poets and encourage everyone to write their truth. That poetry not only gives you catharsis but also gives you the safe space. So that's how I met Ashna, and I am so honored to feature them for this, the first ever poet for the Matwala New Books Showcase for this year. And let me read the bio. And it's like Ashna Ali is a queer and disabled child of Bangladeshi diaspora and the author of The Relativity of Living Well, which was published by Bone Banquet in 2024. And the Substack Pain Baby. And anyone who is on Substack, please subscribe to this. It's an excellent resource for writers and everything else. They hold a PhD in comparative literature from the Graduate Center, CUNY, and are earning an MFA in the low residency creative writing program at Randolph College. They serve as the poetry editor for Epiphany magazine and co-edit Dead End Zine. So, Ashna, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much for that warm introduction, Megha, and thank you so much, Matwala, for having me. I'm very, very honored to be here and so excited to see Desis supporting Desis. I was very excited when Megha ran up to me at Dodge and was like, "I have so many resources for you," and that so rarely happens. And it was a beautiful moment. I'm very happy to be here. This is my book. It's called The Relativity of Living Well. I don't know if you can really see it given the blur. Let me unblur. There we go. Published by Bone Bouquet in last November. And this book is my first book, and it documents my experience as a queer and South Asian high school New York City teacher, getting COVID in March of 2020 and becoming increasingly ill while teaching online and observing how New York City's sort of character changed and unfolded over time. And this sort of docu-poetic journey moves from 2020 through mid-2023. So I'm just going to read two poems from it. The first is a love letter to the disability and chronically ill community that embraced me when I became too disabled to work full time and to maintain my job and education. Without these people, I wouldn't be here, and it is one of the warmest and most accepting and funny and deeply kind communities I've ever known. So this poem and love letter is called Top Secret Club Abjection, content warning for some foul language and some bodily imagery. It's H who starts me on the teas, delivers 4 fragrant boxes she mixed herself, ingredients on a handmade label. C, I find on Instagram talking about herbalism practice, how she treats her own body. She makes me videos about my limbs while holding her baby, feeding her dog. I find N through P who says, hey, I think N might have doctors who believe non-men when y'all talk. We make a list with reviews, a private Yelp for queer crips and kin. I find the Nipo O Cuddle through B, who uses it before bed to not ask too much of a massage therapist partner. I buy it as a gift for at least 3 of the club, recommend it to everyone who has enough money this month. We use it together on the phone, the buzzing and moaning from each of our homes, confusing, we hope, to whomever might be surveilling. When I start the new drug, 2 of the club tell me not to be surprised when I can't eat, when there's a zap between my ears, when joy feels just as far as rage, which combined feel like nothing. Though we live in different states, we coordinate days to say, fuck it, do whatever we like, have 1 glass of wine too many, eat everything. We cackle and cry to one another from wheelchair, bathtub, toilet seat, shower stool, somewhere on the floor. The club says plans are not plans unless we've measured capacity, found whatever honesty we have left between the sofa cushions. The club says, hey, I've got enough Valium for 2 today. The club isn't afraid of blood, vomit, piss, shit, passing money around. Tomorrow we get up, clothe ourselves in pep, a workplace costume because everyone knows that everyone would rather be fooled. This next poem is after Joan Larkin, and it documents a lot of different feelings I was having around the beginning of October, right around October 7th, and also about my responses to online astrology communities. And it's called Horoscope. Today, the astrology app tells me this moon demands revisions into empowerment. In a poem, a woman burns down a strict house, emerges inside her bones. I thought power was 1,000 arms around my waist, many collarbones in which to hide when the air feels sharp, my own exposed and rose-watered for any needy spine. The moon has come to punish faith. Flog me for standing in front of my house with lighter fluid, drawing deep from my cigarette, and just staring. The stars, they're getting personal, reminding me I only learn anything the hard way. I want this poem to call on the ancestors, give me God back, remind me faith isn't faith if it holds up to scrutiny. I want its repetitions to bloom me to tenderness, because everyone who breaks me is broken, is breaking, too. I want its voices to tell me that power is rejection of repetition as evidence of futility. I want it to give me reasons to stay soft. But the moon, impatient, raises a barnacled eyebrow. I tell her that in this era of loss on loss, none of it simple, I want to submit my love to everyone. But she, unimpressed, boots me into her moving traffic, defibrillates my cruelties back to beating. I cross my legs when they prefer them open and lose half smiles whose breadcrumbs I live on. I rot my heart as it marinates to their taste and lose my dinner invitation, my gold chain, my pet name. I open my mouth, tell the truth plain, and have only the clock's tick left for kin. The moon, her pockmarked stare, decodes to annihilation. Is faith still faith if its hive of lies produces only bloated hands? Power, she tells me, is emerging with nothing on the bones but bones, evidence of something vanishing, the voice of an ancestry whose chant wants this poem to claw my skin into 1,000 arsons. The app says, welcome your power. Thank you so much for listening and for being here. I'm going to drop a link to this book
Yes.
in the chat, which, by the way, is not available on Amazon. The thing on Amazon is a different thing. And this is my Substack called Pain Baby, where I discuss all things pain and disability. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Yeah, and lots of other resources because I'm subscribed to that. Yeah, it's a very good one. So thank you so much for reading both of your poems, Ashna, and they are so evocative and they are so powerful at the same time. And I know they comes from such a deep place because everyone, when we went through like pandemic, when we were living in our own islands of isolation, to find poetry to speak through your pain, it's another level of creativity because some people just tend to shut down, but some people try to, find like poetry as catharsis. And even though your body is going through such a turmoil and you tame your mind to write something which is creative and beautiful, this is a service not only you're doing to yourself but to all the like disabled community. So I personally think it's such a beautiful thing to do. And yeah, I really loved it. And when I talked to you as a person, I was so drawn towards you when because I didn't know you from before, right? So I just saw your panel and I was like, I have to talk to them, I have to do something about their poetry. So yeah, thank you so much for accepting the invitation for this showcase. I am so honored to like showcase, and as you can see in the chat, people are like, telling you how they feel about your poem and everything, and it's beautiful. So if anybody else has anything to say, please raise your hand or let me know. Otherwise, I'll move on to the next reader. You can see Ashna in the chat, like, Pramila has written, Yamini has written, joy feels such as far as race. And the other thing which like it kind of like speaks in your poetry is like you pose question for the readers, and they are like kind of like thoughts and quotes, which every line in the poem can become a quote by itself. And I also pose questions to my readers in the poetry itself, so I'm very drawn towards it. So, not taking too much time, moving on to our next reader is Dr. Anita Nahal. And
I
before
think,
I before I
Megha, I'm not able to post messages in the chat. It says only the host and co-host can do that.
okay, uh, all right. So who knows how to make somebody a co-host? Please help me. Because
But
if I
but all
switch,
the other participants are able to. Um,
yeah,
so I don't know why I'm not able to do it.
yeah,
It's
I'm
a bit.
also not a host. Oh
So
God.
it says only host and co-host can send messages to every. Oh, this is going to the waiting room. Sorry. Okay.
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 You
I'm
figured
okay
out?
now.
Yeah, because
Yeah. Sorry about that. Okay.
okay. All right. Everything good in the Zoom world? We are moving on to the next reader, which is Dr. Anita Nehal. What I can say about Dr. Anita is I don't call her Dr. Anita. I call her Anita. She's like a big sister to me. And the first time when I met her was through when I was curating the works for the Kali project. It's an anthology of 102 women poets and women X all around the world, and they're just speaking through their power and the grit and resilience. And that's how I came across so many South Asian diasporic women poets. And after that, we have done so many things together. Every other thing, that every other book or novel that she has come out, I have read it. And her poetry is so beautiful. It has its mission, and the way she writes even the novel and the poetic prose, you can find beauty in it. And before I spill more beans, I want to pass on to stage to Dr. Anita. Let me just read her bio before that. Dr. Anita Nahal is a professor, poet, children book writer, novelist, and short filmmaker. See, I was in line. Twice Pushcart nominated 22-23 finalist of Tagore Literary Prize in 23 and winner of Nissim Literature Prize in 2024. Her latest collection is Animals, prose poem on sentiency, decency, and indecency was released by Kelsey in May 2025. A Fulbright and NEH scholar, she teaches at the University of District of Columbia, Washington, D.C. And you can visit her website, which is her full name, www.anitanehal.com. So, Anita, the stage is all yours.
Thank you so much, Megha, and for that lovely introduction. Thank you, Usha and Pramila, for having me here. And I'm really glad to listen to everyone. Love listening to you, Ashna, and looking forward to listening to others. So this year, actually, two books came out. When Megha said initially that, you can talk about other books, I'm only going to talk about one, but I suddenly realized that another book had come out. So I'll begin with that. This is called Silver Years, and this is senior contemporary Indian women's poetry. And this has been brought out by India's Academy of Letters, the Sahitya Academy. I know Pramila's poetry is also in it, and so is mine. So that was the one of them. And then my own book came out called Animals, Prose Poems in Sentiency, Decency, and Indecency. That's an image of a cow with just one eye showing. So I just want to talk about the book a bit and this issue as to how I came about writing this collection. From childhood, I have been deeply interested in animal life, in about the cruelty that is meted out to animals by some humans. And over the years, this issue kept impacting me deeply and deeply till last year when I was finally able to bring this collection together. The book it's a short collection of about 45 poems, and it addresses issues of major issues of global animal rights, such as general cruelty to animals, animal testing, animal abandonment, animal research, animals in races, animal blood banks, animals in entertainment, and animals in fashion, just to name a few. This is not a collection that tells people to eat or not to eat meat, because that's a personal choice. But this is a book that hopefully I'm keeping my fingers crossed, will allow people to think, to ponder, to discuss, and hopefully influence human beings to make positive changes in the way their treatment is meted out to animals. Um, I just wanted to give you a few statistics which are not in the book, just to contextualize it. 96% of circus animals live their lives in cages. 10 million wild animals are trapped and killed exclusively for their fur each year. 15 million warm-blooded animals are tortured daily in laboratories. A good news that came out this week in the United States was that NIH, National Institute of Health, has decided to use less animal and totally ultimately do away with testing on animals and to prioritize human-based research technologies beginning from this year. So that is a start. And 40 million donkeys, for example, are used for transportation globally. So these are just some figures to show to you that how animals could be mistreated around the world. So I'm going to read two poems. I'll read the first one, Megha, and let me know if there is time for the second one. Before I read my first poem, I wanted to just read out something which I wrote in the introduction. Many times we say that this or that person behaves like an animal. Many times we say that. I think we need to move away from that paradigm because animals certainly do not behave like some humans in pre planned actions of mercilessness. And to deny that animals have feelings and sensitivities as delight, pleasure, and pain reveals a deficiency in human perception at the way our world operates. I also want to give a shout out to my publishers, Kelsey Publishers, who came up with this absolutely excellent cover with the side of a cow on it. So the first poem I'm reading is called Decapods, which are crabs and lobsters, and you were just talking about that. That was coincidental. Decapods will rebel one day. In oceans, in nets, in receptacles, in boiling water, in mouths. One day. Tempting many passers-by at a restaurant window stood a glass container full to the top, full of crabs, lobsters, in some kind of slimy water, being prepared for the scalding burns and then the chop. Water is perhaps rarely changed. Wasn't any need when death by murder awaited them in a world deranged. Sherlock Holmes, come quick, look for the clues, shake my blues, let the decapods go, they have paid their dues. My long sigh fogged the winter pain when a gloved hand picked one crab and one lobster, tossing them carelessly, pitilessly, hastily into large pots of boiling water. I could hear from the butcher no gasp, no stutter, and as I walked away, crestfallen, struggling with big words like humanity, immortality, and sentient empathy, I looked back. And the crustaceans, so called non sentients, fluttered around as they sank, writhing from agony that some would have us believe they don't feel. I could possibly swear I saw their red swollen eyes open and watching, with their one stalk each pointing straight up, open and watching, and shaking right to left repeatedly, like an admonishment. Karma is not cloaked, nor is it like Rip Van Winkle. Hollywood displays advanced aliens looking like decapods. Guilt? Fear? One day. Megha, may I read the second poem? Okay, thank you. So this is about donkeys that are, sometimes we go to hill stations or we go to religious places and we use donkeys because we cannot walk up, which is fine, but then their mistreatment is what impacts them. So this poem is called Ride Me If You Must. You may ride me and feel splendid. You may place your weight on me and feel rested and smarter from the thronal elevation on another body. Your aching feet, cramping legs, fright, or lethargy prevent you from walking. Your two are inadequate, so you use my incompliance forth. Give it up or give me up. History or culture will not vilify you. Up and down the hill we go, your feet are up, mine are rough. Ropes, stirrups, saddles aren't my friends by any stretch. And my scars, grazes are my badge of honor that I try to cover. At times I feel nauseated when you part me in the hot sun without satiating my basic needs. Thirst, food, basic. I won't snatch yours. I'll do with just hay and straw. Butterflies try to flutter around, drying the sweat on my forehead. One or two, I could swear, blew me a flying kiss. Yet I only see the dark hole into which I can fall if the ground beneath I miss. You will walk away like folks who have sex without emotions. And I'll continue to be ridden by countless souls satiating their desire or thrills to climb a mountain, pay abeyance, or enjoy a setting sun. Give it up or give me up. Moss and the sun have changed me. My legs are green, my paws yellow, and the blue on top is you. Enjoying this thrill while my sanity is splitting at its core. Thank you.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it just breaks my heart to see, Yeah, and first of all, thank you so much, Anita, for reading your poems and all. And I've already told you before in person, but for the sake of this showcase, I'm going to tell it again that, if you read Anita poems, you can see her beautiful heart. you can see how deeply and emotionally she connects to everything, to every topic that she writes about. She has written on a plethora of topics across the spectrum, being a South Asian diasporic poet, but also being a woman and a person of color. And this collection, basically, when I saw, the cover itself, it's like, if you see, and in our Indian thing, we compare cows to mothers, give them, because they're feeding us with their like milk and all, which is supposed to be for their own, like, small babies and everything. But then the thing which comes to my mind is how vulnerable are not only these animals, the pets that we keep, and animals around us. And I always believe in the fact, the your true character shows if you're given a power, and how you behave with everyone around you, not only the people who are like equals, or people who are dependent on you. And animals, as you know, human beings are at the top of the social chain in terms of everything, and we have the power, we hold power to so many things. And then it shows our humanity and our decency, the way we treat our animals. And I'm talking about animals not only who we keep as pets because they give us companionship, but also the animals we find outside our home. And that the perfect testament to how animals are important to us. When we came in, like, in during pandemic, people were like, who were living alone, they actually adopted so many animals because they were giving them companionship, and they don't ask anything in return. So I think, as a human being, it is something very essential for all of us to show empathy to each other, not to only to our species, but to other species who are living and coexisting. And yep, Anita, you can read the, your praise for your poetry in the chat. And if anyone else wants to speak anything, one line, one anything about the poems that she read, please unmute yourself. Uh, and if you want to say anything about Anita Nahal's poetry. And Anita, have you posted the link to your books? Yeah, you have.
Yeah.
Anything
Yeah.
else?
I think
Yeah.
Ashna did that. Thank you so much, Ashna. I just saw that. And thanks, very kind of you to do that. Yes.
See, that's the thing I'm talking about. And that's the camaraderie we have.
Mhm.
And that's such a beautiful thing to see, uplifting each other and supporting each other. And yes, and do I see anybody else raising their hands? I can't see all of it. Okay. So, I'm moving on to our next reader, which I can confidently say is the youngest of all us. And and I am very proud that, at this young age, and Usha mentioned to me about you, Diya. I'm talking about Diya Kanduri, and she's going to be the next featured poet in our showcase. And it's such heartwarming to see when young people and young poets join this passion of writing and creative writing and expression, especially when the social media kind of siphons all our creative energy, and it becomes even more difficult for younger people, people of younger generation, right? Because uh, they are not only the victims, but they are also using it in a positive way. But they this is the environment they are born in, so this was imposed on them. And then to carve some time out of this, when you are so much distracted with 10 other apps on your thing, and you're still coming out with a book of poetry, I am really impressed. I am so happy, and I'm so hopeful that, yeah, a future generation and everything, they're like doing so much to keep the poetry and the love of poetry alive. So without taking any more time, I'm going to read bio of Diya. And Diya Kanduri is a 20-year-old Indian American poet based in New Jersey. Yeah, to New Jersey. I'm also based in New Jersey. Her debut chapbook, Berries on the Bush, was published by Dancing Girl Press in 2025. Congratulations again. And her previously published work can be found on India Currents. To keep up with her updates, you may visit her Instagram page at Diya Kanduri. And the book she's going to feature today in this showcase is Berries on the Bush by Dancing Girl Press. So, on to you, Diya. All the best, and congratulations once again. It's such a beautiful feeling to get your first book published, and at this young age, you're doing something right. And we wish you all the very best. So, the stage is all yours, Diya.
All right, thank you. I want to say thank you to Matwaala for letting me read. Thank you for that introduction. It's really nice to be in this community of other South Asian poets and hearing all of your guys' poems. It's absolutely an incredible experience. I also want to give a special shout out to Usha Akella. She was the one who helped me actually get into poetry. She is also the reason why I was able to actually get my chapbook edited and get it out. So thank you so much for all of your help and your mentorship with getting my poetry out there. Really appreciate everything you've done for my writing and my writing career. So my book is called Berries on the Bush. It came out just a few months ago. I wrote this book. I was inspired to write this book because, like Megha was saying, I was born into this generation of social media, and I feel like there's been a pressure nowadays, and it's kind of moving a little bit away from the arts and more into like what's trendy, or like everybody's being pushed into like STEM fields. So one thing that I've noticed recently is that there seems to be a less emphasis on arts in school systems and college. Like people are being pushed to do like science and math. And it was just really saddening for me to notice this trend of moving away from creative expression. So for my chapbook, it's actually ekphrasis style, which means that they are poems based on other art forms. And the purpose of this book was to kind of journey through art. And I dived into a bunch of different art mediums, different artists with different backgrounds. So this is so all my books in this book, all of my poems are based off of other art pieces, and they're in response to all of that. So I'm going to be sharing two poems for you guys today. The first poem is called Golden Greens and Long-Limbed Trees, and this is based off of a painting. It's the Bridge Over a Pond of Water Lilies painting done by Monet. If the world was a swirl of golden greens and long-limbed trees, I would embrace it in my arms, dip long fingers into the water and watch them emerge painted. Watch the way the lilies bob, suspended in an unbroken reflection. If the world was a swirl of golden greens and long-limbed trees, and a crystal bridge, hovering like a hummingbird over the water, arching like a cat, I'd lie on the arch and pluck a lily from the water and tuck it behind locks of my brown hair. If the world was a swirl of golden greens and long-limbed trees, I'd race the bees down the side of the pond, never able to take my eyes off the rainbows embellishing the water. If the world was a swirl of golden greens and long-limbed trees, I'd step aside. I wouldn't rush through it with clumsy feet, touch the water, steal a lily, and race the bees. I'd stop and stare for a while, take a photograph, and walk away. My footprints need not to remain. So that's the first one. My second poem is a bit more of a serious one. It's called Glare, and I actually wrote this in response to a photograph of the National Geographic June 1985 cover. And in case you're not familiar, the picture of that cover is a National Geographic magazine, and on the front is a woman named Sherbat Gula, and she is from Afghanistan. Obviously, there's been a lot of events happening in Afghanistan with the Taliban taking over and women's voices being silenced. And for me, that was a topic that really struck home because I feel like women's voices shouldn't be silenced. We should have the right to an education. And that just really like struck home seeing what was happening in Afghanistan and how it was moving back after everything. And so I did write a poem in response to all of that and that National Geographic cover. And it focuses on her like yellow green eyes. And then this poem is called Glare. They call her the Afghan Mona Lisa. Her haunted yellow green eyes glared through the dusky black camera lens, piercing the world like the pain of an orphan refugee. A living painting, painting reality with the stains of birthplace left to the vultures of war. Sherbat Gula is a lens for her homeland that allows the world to see into the blur, beyond the walls of their homes, and into the walls of a girl whose childhood was erased by the contract of war. A contract she never signed. A story for the people who never read the fine print of those they idolize. The world is a movie projected by the media, fast forwarded by politicians, and the pairs of soldiers' boots leaving, returning once again to the word home. Unaware that underground, the tentacles of an ancient creature are awakening from a slumber. The streams of refugees turn to rain, forming oceans that flood foreign countries, that have walls, dams. She is welcome into the city of gladiator fights and gelato. Years of war and childbirth have eroded and carved her face. Her eyes still pierce the world. She watches the tentacles squeeze her birthland. She watches families hoping to escape war's labyrinth. She watches girls wrested from dreams. She watches people cling to airplane wheels like a toddler clings to its mother. She watches as the world falls. She watches as the world fails once again. She watches. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody should unmute and clap. This is so beautiful and this is so powerful. Both the poems, they are in both the poems that you read, they're stark, contrast in their emotions. The first one has the beauty and the musicality, and, it was an expressed poem. So you can actually, create that vivid imagery, which is there in Water Lilies by Monet. And through your second poem, you brings out that, the image of the Afghan woman. And, it comes to you because it was such a viral image. And recently I saw, I think in one of the Instagram posts, and, they have recently photographed her again after 35 years. And as human age and everybody else age, you will not be drawn towards the crow's feet and the wrinkles on her face. The things which still stands out is her eyes. It's those strong, evocative, emotive eyes. And I love that, you brought that image, but also you brought the story around that woman, the story about grit and resilience and the advocacy for women rights. So your poetry has so much of promise, has so much of such a strong message. And you can see in the chat, people, you know we all are older to you. So we have some level of wisdom and advice, and when we are appreciating, it means something. People you can see, I'll read some of the Usha says it's musical, which it is. It's dreamy and evocative. Yamini quoted a line from your poem, and Kashyana says, "Hi, Kashyana. Diya's poetry is an inspiration." And yeah, it is inspiration, and it takes another level of craft when people who are older than you gets inspired by you. Let me say that. And Usha says everybody should buy Diya's poet book and support our young poets. And yes, and it goes on and on, and it's indeed a beautiful work, Diya. And I'm so proud that you're part of this. And please don't be a stranger. You all have each other's email. Please reach out to each other, support each other, and buy each other's books. And that's the whole idea. If you don't know about what they're writing, everybody is more or less available on the internet as well, right? So if you want to you acquaint yourself about the writing, you can go on their website, their socials. Yeah, and don't forget to paste your website or any other socials in the chat. And then you can know what every one of us is doing, because there's more to the writing. We support a lot of issues through our writing, so it brings about new dimension to our writing. And we can always learn from everyone around us, no matter the age. So thank you so much, Diya, for reading your poems. And moving on to my next poet is Dr. Feroza Jussawalla. And I've met Feroza only through, and this is the first time I'm meeting her on the Zoom. But they are going to showcase the anthology, which she's going to talk more about it. So this is the bio is Dr. Feroza Jussawalla is a professor emerita at the University of New Mexico, Albuquerque, and she has taught in the US for almost 50 plus years, primarily focusing on post-colonial literatures. Her first book, Family Quarrels Towards a Criticism of Indian Writing in English, came out in 1984, and it was perhaps one of the first books on Indian literature in English. She has many scholarly publications and several poems and short stories published separately. Her collection of poetry is Chiffon Saris. I love this title. Published by Toronto South Asian Review Press and Writers Workshop, Kolkata. And the book she's going to showcase is one of the books. I think she's going to showcase two of her books. It's like one of them is an anthology, which she is one of the co-editor, and it's called Singh's Silver Tongue, an anthology of South Asia women's poetry of trauma in English, and it's published by Yoda Press. I'm pasting the bio for everyone to read, and I'm passing on the mic to Feroza.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Give me a thumbs up. Okay. Hi, it's very nice to meet you. And before I thank the Matwaala people, I have to express my great deep thanks to Lopa, because if it hadn't been for Lopa, I would not be connecting to the South Asian poets or to the South Asian diasporic poets. Of course, I've known Indran for a while. We are both have Hawaii connections in growing up. And so I just wanted to say I need to really express deep thanks to Lopa, one for connecting me to the South Asian Poetry Network, and also for doing really the heavy lifting on this book, that it came out so beautifully only because of the way in which she worked so hard, and also we worked together and I got to know a lovely soul. Now, thanks to her, I got to know some other lovely souls, Usha, Akella, with whom I have a nice WhatsApp chat, and I'm very grateful for that. And of course, Megha Sood. So I'm beginning to get to know us. I've known Kashiana for a while. And so I'm just saying hi to everyone. And because I haven't been in your circle for such a long time, I'm sorry to bring this on, but this is my chiffon saris, which was published long, long ago, 2001, by P. Lal and Toronto South Asian Review Press. And it's focused with New Mexico and how I'm New Mexican and so forth. Doing this book, Sliver Tongue, was a real pleasure. Both of us, Lopa, from her own, family and loving, she has a very loving family, but has had some traumas because she lost family over COVID. And I've had altogether too many traumas. I was telling Usha, I've taken a self-publishing package with Balboa to write that out for you all. But so that's the reason why we came together. She said, well, what do you want to do? And then Radha Chakravarti was very nice to recommend to us that we use the myth of Kona with the slivered tongue, that when a woman begins to speak up, her tongue is cut. To me, that was a good metaphor, because as a post-colonial theorist and critic, I've worked a lot with Gayatri Spivak's idea of the can the subaltern speak, and should the subaltern speak, and who can speak for the subaltern. So I don't want to go off on a theoretical tangent and take up my time for reading the poetry, but that's how I actually came to doing the work. Then we thought perhaps we would make the book a little bit of a textbook so that people in South Asian diaspora classes or women in gender classes could use the book. So we wrote a very extensive, thoroughly researched introduction to Indian poetry in English. We tried to cover the bases that a lot of people may have omitted, going back to a lot of older poets like Nissim Ezekiel and others, doing the full history. And Usha was talking the other day about Salim Piradina, and I said, yes, I've written about him in my dissertation, Family Quarrels. And so we brought quite a bit of not theory, just the history of the establishment of Indian poetry in English. Why in English? Professor K.R. Srinivas Iyengar asks, what name should we call it? Is it Indo-Anglian, Anglo-Indian? It doesn't matter. It's poetry. And as Chinua Achebe said, it sings whatever tongue it is in. That the British gave us a language, if not to speak in, to sigh in. So, this is really an embodiment and a metaphor of how we in the diasporic world and in South Asia have used this language to sigh in. So it has some very telling poems in it. One of my big things is, and I'm going to go to one of my poems here, but one of my big things is my connection to New Mexico. I'm wearing a lot of turquoise. I don't know if you can see it. And the turquoise is Feroza. As you know, it's the Arabic word for turquoise. And here I am in New Mexico. I say I'm a turquoise silversmith because I've landed up in this land, Albuquerque, New Mexico, the land of turquoise silversmiths, where a lot of turquoise is made. So I'll read you very quickly one little poem about chiffon saris in the desert, and then I'll go on to reading the other poem from there, though I did want to read Lakshmi Sri Banerjee's poem. I'll do this real quick. I'm sorry, I won't take a lot of time. So I said chiffon saris in the desert. Chiffon saris blow about in the desert winds and balloon up with dust devils. How they tear when they catch on the mesquite and pick up the pricklers from the prickly pear, that yellow rose of Texas cactus rose. I have stopped wearing saris, silk or chiffon, washable or not washable, dry cleanable only as a long scarf, occasionally a tablecloth. The impure gold zari of the border turns brown or black with desert sand, like the barbed wire of the border fence. I have blended in with the desert only to be called Rosa or Rosita, generic for the dark-haired. ¿Cómo te llama? They ask, unfortunately inviting immigration checks, not invited by saris, at least here in the desert. So that's my translation or belonging into this New Mexican landscape where I've lived for a very long time. However, recently I've gone through some trauma, and so I wrote about this in the poem Fractured. A purple pensiveness falls over me as I contemplate fractured bodies and purple passions. Who will love me now at 66 with lumpectomied 1.5 breasts and a bulging inguinal hernia caused by moving boxes after the radical hysterectomy of cancers past? None will hold women broken and fragmented, afraid to touch cracked glass like shards of crystal glassware, resulting from being dropped in the deliberate abandonment of betrayals wrought by those who should have loved us. Why do we submit to fracturing? Grief is too painful to contemplate in purple pensiveness. Can we be kintsugi'd? Using gold to fill the cracks of my life has become too burdensome. I remain Feroza, turquoise with pyrite. Dishapuri, they call it in India, like my Persian origins. Sonoran gold in my new desert home, where sand pours through cracks like a sieve, unrepairable. So that kind of captures my life story, or my recent life story, just very briefly. Now, we suffer a lot of trauma. Why the theme? People ask us, why the theme of trauma? South Asian women seem to continue to suffer trauma of various sorts. I don't know if we can educate our men in some shape or form to be able to not inflict trauma on us. There are too many rapes, too many murders, too many actions of aggression against women, especially those who, even if they try to break out of their cocoons and do something for work and do something for the humanity, are abused. This is Lakshmi Sri Banerjee's story, a poem written after the rape of the female doctor at the R.J. Khar Hospital, Calcutta, August 9th. That night, the shimmering stars hid themselves in utter shame. as did the night while watching the monstrosity of the dark came. The bleary-eyed mother wept and wept with tears of endless ravine bloods. Are those the goons I gave birth to, soaked in such a pernicious blood? They walked in with hate and lust, wrapped in mantles of murk and evil. They besmeared the motherly bond, wholly with claws and paws like the devil. They throttled, raped, and ripped her apart with inhuman torture in caverns of stress, as darkness wished to hide in the dark, to run away from being such a witness. Intoxicated with blind Dionysian fury, they forgot their mothers in their black souls. They forgot the warmth of her lap and milk as they defiled brutally their Genesis whole. And this, we have to do something about this. I don't know what we can do, whether we write, speak, whatever, but we have to stop aggression against women. And this is not just in India. Recently, a Parsi woman was stabbed to death in Toronto, California. Canada, sorry, in Toronto, Canada. So, we have to stop aggression against women, and we need to put our heads together and our poetry together and our voices together and let all the subalterns speak for all the subalterns. Thank you very much for listening to me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Feroza. And and the poetry and everything is like, though it talks about the grief and the trauma, and as I mentioned in the and the sexual violence against women and the grief and the trauma and everything which comes with it. And I'm reading the anthology these days, and the first thing I wanted to point out that yes, the editor note in the book has been meticulously researched, and it gives so much of reference, and it's a history lesson in itself, and people who wants to know more about how the post-colonial literature and the South Asian diasporic literature has come into play. So it's very informative, and that's the least we can expect from people like, when they are editors like Lopa Basu and Feroza Jussawalla, who have been deeply entrenched in the South Asian diasporic and post-colonial literature. And as I'm reading the poem, obviously it talks about the trauma and everything which is going through, South Asian women all across, the diaspora and even in the homeland. But at the same time, it also doesn't want to play like the victimhood of the woman. It also brings like how they are able to sustain through their grit and resilience. So but at the same time, yeah, there is a strong there's a need of the art to bring the attention towards how the heinous of the acts of is, the sexual violence against is becoming day by day, how it's by every passing moment all these attacks are getting heinous. And it's you can't even read them to the full extent, and I'm like, it's kind of gives you like, there's so much of gore and violence, and to so that the body that you're holding, it's like it's been like, treated so violently. It's appalling, and it's heartbreaking. But to talk about this, there's one thing to read about it, but the other thing to bring trauma and to write through trauma and grow through your pain is a testament of how poetry can help us in catharsis and also become like, advocacy, and it gives us that strength to bring those in front of all of us. So thank you so much. Everybody should buy the copy of this book. It's the curation of the poem itself in the book is like brilliant. There's such brilliant, powerful work in terms of trauma, in terms of resilience and grit, and the trauma that, all the women of the South Asian diaspora, and not only about, it's not only about trauma, it's about sexual and gender-based discrimination and other forms of discrimination which the women goes through, and the generational trauma, patriarchy, misogyny, everything that we have to face, and how it affects us forever. So it's a very necessary and crucial work, as Ashna pointed out, and you can see in the chat, and how necessary this topic is, and how necessary we have, like how crucial it is to talk about it. So thank you so much, Feroza,
And
for bringing
Megha,
this to
I
our
just want to
attention.
give a big shout out and a thank you to Yoda Press and all the people at Yoda Press for taking us seriously and taking on this project. I want to thank that press greatly. Thank you.
Yeah, you can see from the quality of the book, and everything, that how much work has also been done in publishing that piece of the collection of the poems. So thank you so much, Feroza, for bringing this book to our attention, an anthology. And next up, we have, and can you please also post your link to your website, Feroza, and to the press, or any other link you want to share with the attendees so that they can know more about the book and the authors, the co-editors. And next, we have one of my special poets, Indran Amirthanayagam. And Indran Amirthanayagam is a poet, editor, publisher, translator, a YouTube host, and diplomat. For 30 years, he worked for his adoptive country, the United States, on diplomatic assignments in Africa, Asia, Europe, North and South America. Amirthanayagam produced a world record in 2020, publishing 3 poetry collections written in 3 different languages. He writes in English, Spanish, French, Portuguese, and Haitian Creole. Amirthanayagam hosts the poetry channel, the link is on the YouTube. And he edits the Beltway Poetry Quarterly and writes at indran.amirthanayagam.blogspot.com. I'm going to post the whole biodata in the chat for the links and everything. And today he's going to, out of the so many books that he has written and published, he's going to feature his current publication of poetry, which is Seer by Hanging Loose Press. And it's an absolute honor and privilege to showcase Indran. I have the honor of talking with him, meeting with him, working with him, and also, I've been featured with him during the launch of my current fourth collection of the poetry. He was one of the featured poets alongside, and I'm so honored to have you here, Indran. And he's joining us from Mexico, if I'm not wrong. And Indran, the stage is all yours. Indran, you're muted. Indran, you're muted. Let me unmute you. I can't unmute him. Hold on. Indran, can you hear me? We can't hear you. You're still muted. Hold on.
Okay. Hello. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very sorry about that. I'm on my phone and
No,
having
I
some
know.
complications. Yeah.
Taking Zoom calls on phone adds another level of complexity in terms of handling control. So I understand. But
Okay.
please start from the beginning because we were not able to hear you. So the
No
stage is all
problem.
yours, Indran.
I'm just very grateful for this opportunity and thank you to Matwaala for the recognition, the honor of for my poetry. Thank you to you, Megha, and to all of the poets here. Really, I mean, after listening to just realizing the challenges we have in this world, and the the atrocities that are committed every day throughout the planet, throughout the human family, which is bleeding, and not only the human family, but all the other families, all other living beings on this planet are also bleeding. So how do we stop the flow of the blood, or at least cover it up so that the blood can flow in peace internally through the veins of each living being? Well, poetry can help. The new book of mine is called Seer. It's published by Hanging Loose Press, and it's available. And then I have another new book called The Runner's Almanac, published by Spite and Dival. Both these books actually, I've written them during the pandemic, and I don't think the pandemic has quite gone away, right? But yes, I do write in various languages. I mean, it's just been my way of dealing with the trauma of happens in life, and how do you overcome it? I overcome it by writing and writing in the language of the host. I feel I'm a migrant and I've crossed many borders in my life, including linguistic borders. And I don't like borders at all. And I don't like uh, nationalism and patriotism in the sense that when it excludes the visitor and the migrant. So I hope my poetry can advocate for free passage and dignified passage. Um, Seer was originally called the seared eye. So I was thinking about the COVID eye and the searing and the burning of that eye. And in the dedication to the book, I write, when the eye sears, when poet and reader do the searing, after the flash, brightness too intense for ordinary matters of waking, the vision of poetry begins. I hope these poems envision a new world, a survivor's world, a world of picking up the broken pieces and building again despite everything. And I say for all of us, I use the we very openly and liberally. I do feel we are all uh, one. Amma, Amma, no need for more. You opened my heart, scooped out my soul with that word. Appa too, in memory, the love and pride I felt in his embrace. I grew up certainly with daddy and mummy and use those terms still. But in these middle years, I realized the call of the native tongue, the ID card that does not expire. Words heard from the womb along with the English my parents loved. The Tamil tutor, a dour knuckle crusher, visited our afternoons. But MGR gave us romantic Tamil in the cinema. Becoming a young man, I discovered the poet of the red earth and pouring rain, and what the young woman whispered to her friend by the well on the high road. Borderless. Words have borders and border guards. Use them freely and you might be pushed to the rack, visa denied, bullet in the back. It does not matter if the Middle or Dark Ages are historical periods. They live today like crocodiles, hippos, birds, descended from earlier life forms. Who are these neighbors collecting money in baby bottles to discourage women from ending pregnancies? Do they respect life, these bottled faces taunting women outside clinics? There is something rotten in the state of bottles, bottled ideas, bottled prejudices, bottled bile. I have a bottle open of wine, of passion fruit. Would you come over for a drink? Shall we embrace, make love? If a baby comes, if a baby does not, at least we can say we felt. We felt bliss. Were lifted to some happy place without border guards or visas. The sea, our home, as far as the eye can see. Reached. I cannot keep writing love poems. They wake up sleeping hungers, jostle the calm demeanor, deepen constant low level anxiety that I shall be found out, revealed, that I will have to admit, even face to face with the subject of my delirium, that I am indeed hooked, lined, and smashed on the floor of the trawler. And only you, dear reader, can say, drop that fish back in the sea. Let the fellow swim unshackled, free. But it is the nature of reading, living vicariously. So don't think the reader will intervene. I alone can resist worm and hook, writing in turn, ironically, a book. Um, I'll close with this. Well, I mean, I think I probably, maybe I'll just close with a poem from memory, and it's called You Must Love. You must love the land when you leave to build your house on the sea. Love what's lost, the mango tree burning in the garden, the curious noose of the familiar coat of arms. Love the ball turning strong, spinning in a dark, faraway land. Love the tongue you'll never again speak, that wrapped you and bled you and dried up some every day on the other side of the sea. Thank you so much. The book is called Seer, and the other book, The Runner's Almanac. I write a Substack now, indranmx.substack.com. Please visit. That's probably the best place for what I'm doing at the moment, indranmx.substack.com. Thank you so much. Thank you, Matwaala.
Thank you so much, Indran. If you can like post the links, yeah, in the chat, that would be really helpful. And thank you so much for reading those poems. And as like all of us are South Asian diasporic poets, we know the pain of carrying our hyphenated identities all across, like, the borders, and how it spills into our poetry all the time, the belonging and everything. Now in the mode of keeping like time, I'm going to move on to our, and you can read the comments in the chat uh, about the appreciation and how everybody is like moved by your poetry. The next is, I'm honored to invite Pramila Venkateswaran, who's one of the co-founders of Matwaala, and she's also a poet laureate of Suffolk County, Long Island, and co-director of Matwaala. She's going to be showcasing one of her book, Exile is Not a Foreign Word by Copper Coin. And just to save time, I'm going to paste her bio in the chat. And Pramila, the stage is all yours.
Thank you very much, Megha, for hosting this event. And I'm so happy to see all of you here. And the new book showcase is always exciting. We have so many wonderful voices. I'm just eager to buy all your books and read them. So I had two books that came out at the same time in November. Call it a bonanza. So Tamil Dalit Feminist Poetics. So there's a book of literary criticism that focuses on Tamil Dalit poets. So I did the three-pronged thing of translating, analyzing, and also bringing in Dalit politics and looking at the poems through the Dalit lens. So which means I had to do a whole lot of reading. So it was like a marathon time that I spent writing this book. So please ask your libraries wherever you are to order the book. It's from Roman and Littlefield, which has now been taken over by Bloomsbury. And then Exile is Not a Foreign Word. This book is something that I've been working on for many years. And finally, it came out from Copper Coin. I basically let the book rest on the shelves and gather dust. And then Usha kept prodding me to get it out there and then send it to publishers. So I'm going to read you two poems from this, and you'll find all my books on either Amazon, or if you go to my website, which I'll post immediately after I finish reading, you can find all my other books. Exile is Not a Foreign Word basically explores all the different ways in which borders have been created. These are manufactured borders, and how these borders affect us psychologically. So there's one poem that I'm going to read, which I actually wrote much later after many of these poems. It's called Letter to Mohammed Darwish. You had nightmares that the street you grew up in forgot you, that the doors of the familiar vanished. You wrote to melt the walls, but saw them harden. As you stirred your tea, breathing the Paris air, memorizing last night's images. But if you were here, you'd fall on your knees in the dust and weep to see the children of Gaza, your kin, buried in the fiery wreckage of Israel's rage. How can the ones who've seen death's emissaries become those emissaries? Heart-fogged, how do they pour flames to burn my land? You don't have to ask these. Your lament still echoes through all your poems, memorized by us, keeping every brick of Palestine alive. When you open your window, you who only saw your garden irises and olives scenting the air. Now watch survivors wander, dazed, and you have no words. You don't turn away from the horror. I know you will stay where it's unbearable. So I turn to you in this soul-crushing moment and read your words, rescuing home. Thank you. And in this next poem that I'm going to read, it's about the history of the textile, the cotton textile. How to wear cotton and not notice the wounds. Stalks dance in the wind, holding snow puffs, belying blood, sunlight, searing bent backs, shadows on the pages of history. The thorns, the tearing, striking, stripping. Gandhi wove cotton to brand patriotism and burned synthetics like colonialism. Was he blind to innocent black blood coloring Mississippi red? White bolts like corpses lined factory walls, a purity march from Lancaster to Lowell after leaving Bombay and Atlanta. Now from Bangladesh to strip malls, ghosts roam behind each weave and cut. The thorns, the tearing, striking, stripping. You loved the hug of fabric, the seductive wrap of sheets, the go-to for bandages and sanitary pads. The thorns stubbornly prick fine fingers in new markets. How to wear cotton and not notice the wounds. And one short poem that I start the book with, and it's a love poem. Is this love that stone-clad treaties cannot sunder? Behind her Madras headscarf and his hat framing it above, her fingers claw the wall to rise higher, to lock her lips with his. The couple just inches apart, the concrete rising between them. An open sky above, birds migrating. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Pramila. And you know I read your Substack, right? So I know the diversity in your work, and you know all these like the urgent topics and the necessary topics which you bring attention, whether it's like caste discrimination or whether it's the genocide happening or any other human rights violation which is happening. So Pramila poetry is like that. And in addition to that, we owe her a lot because she is one of the co-founders of Matwaala, and that is the reason we all are here. And thank you so much for establishing Matwaala and bringing together the South Asian diasporic poets. And you can see the love people have for your poetry in the chat. In the sense of keeping and ending this thing on time, I'm going to move on to the next poet, which is Srinivas Mandavilli. And Srinivas Mandavilli is the chief of pathology and laboratory medicine at Hartford Hospital and the author of the chapbook Gods in the Foyer, which came out in 2016. And today he's going to showcase his book, Havra Bridge by Srinivas Mandavilli. And I'm going to post the complete bio in the chat. And you are next, Srinivas, and you can showcase your book, and the stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megha, for doing this. By the way, I'm recovering from a procedure, so my voice sort of comes and goes. I hope you folks can hear me okay. And if my enunciation goes bad, apologies in advance. It's really lovely to be reading with this group of poets. A couple of words about my chapbook, Hara Bridge. Actually, in the background, I have a picture of the bridge I took on a recent visit to India. So for those of you who haven't been to Calcutta, it's a pretty magnificent bridge. And the picture on the cover of the book is by a street photographer, Raj Sarkar. And in the foreground of the bridge is a sari, because some of the poems are evocative of the mother figure in the chapbook itself. I had read somewhere that to write is to free yourself from the constraints of memory. And by putting those thoughts down on a piece of paper, those thoughts are transformed and assume a complex new shape or a structure with details. So for me, Howrah Bridge is such a structure from my childhood that connected me literally on our train journeys from Assam to Andhra, where we stopped in Calcutta. But now it's metaphorically a link from here to India. And the collection, this book collection of Howrah Bridge, has many poems dealing with sort of the faithful work of returning home to childhood. And such a return becomes a bridge between the present and childhood. By the way, can you folks understand me? Okay. Thank you. My day job, as Megha said, is a pathologist. I'm sitting at a microscope looking at tumors, diagnosing them, classifying them, prognosticating. And as writers and poets, we sort of do the same thing, walking around with lenses on life, right? Observing moments of joy or loss or delight or pain that is carried through. And such observations are put down. And to me, we are always drawing parallel from life. And if those words, if it brings up a memory for a reader or evokes a memory in a reader, that to me is a successful poem. So I'll read a couple of poems. The first one is called Grandfather. When I was finishing up medical school in India, my grandfather was diagnosed with lung cancer from smoking. And I went with him to Tata Memorial Cancer Center in Bombay. And after the consultation, where both he and I knew that it was very terminal, we were standing outside. He pulled out a pack of cigarettes from his shirt pocket and lit a cigarette. This poem sort of goes back to some of those reflections I have from that day. Grandfather, your name is on a yellow cardboard tag on your stove. I tremble as I bend, removing rimmed glasses, crisply ironed clothes, the gold-strapped watch. We are playing rummy. You are crotchety, unwilling to throw down any bad hand. Then I am off on a robber bicycle, like someone possessed, to the cooperative store, buy 2 packs of Charminar, not Will's filter. The heft of your naked, bruised body is on a steel gurney, and tentatively I place fingertips on your ribs. In the darkening air, with scalpel snug in my hands, a swift by incision exposes the atria, ventricles, and dust, and smoke, and ash, glistening pleural cavities flooded with a hemorrhagic effusion. We always made an odd pair by the gullies, flush with the first monsoon. I remember the geometry of paper boats, a cigarette held stylishly on your lips. I first learnt of death in a backyard on a Sunday morning. You cleanly sliced off a young chicken's head, gasped, slipping off the railing, peered into its eye as if it were a camera shutter. I recall heeding your advice, lit Charminar, barely held on lips, later biting on a raw onion on the way home. I could be any good son rising within an old grandfather. I think I will sleep in this night's mouth. There are footfalls of rain. Good night, Tata. Thank you. The next poem is written as a haibun in which There is a prose section followed by a haiku. Last January, I had spent a month in the ICU in Visakhapatnam as my mom succumbed to a stroke. And some of this experience, some of this writing stems from those experiences. Octopus Nocturne. In the ICU, a polypoid creature's swiveling eyes scrutinize me, its arms covering, then tasting me with questing suckers. It enters my body like a returning spirit, and I multitask, whooshing around to comb your fraying hair. Help the nurse lift your unresponsive body to change the sheets again. Play chants on the earbuds. And after 3 weeks of sporadic facial twitching, tube feeding, and anti-epileptic medications, even reach to disconnect the ventilator. When I leave the hospital 5th floor with your blue Bata slippers, brown leather purse, and a plastic comb to obtain a temporary death certificate, from the deep realms of the building, the attendant is asleep on the table. I must have explored my 3 hearts to make such decisions. And in a deep ink pond of silence, huddle down to become a sessile structure, learning the faithful act of drowning. Purple body in a tide, sinking like a whale fall. Megha, is there time to read one more?
Can we skip that because we are already on
Yeah,
the time and
that's
we have
fine.
2 more
Yeah.
people.
Thank
But
you all.
thank you so much for understanding, and thank you so much for reading such profound poems. Like, the poems about loss and the poems about nostalgia is what we are full of as a South Asian diasporic poets. And to bring that into the poetry and to share it with the people, it's such a vulnerable stage to be in. But it speaks about, about your creativity, and it speaks about how poetry is catharsis to all of us. So thank you so much, Srinivas, for reading the poems, and please paste your link of the book if it's available or going to get published. If I know it's already published, so please post the link on the website in the chat so that people can know more about it. And moving on to our next poet is Usha Akella. And Usha Akella is an Austin-based poet. She's also the founder of Matwaala, and she has a website of curated interviews. And I'm gonna post the bio in the chat. And welcome, Usha. It's an honor and privilege to listen to your poetry once again. And the stage is all yours. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Megha, so much for doing this. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the poem, maybe, and not do too much commentary. I think the clock's ticking. If there's time, I'll maybe say a sentence or two after the poem. Uh, this is the chapbook published by Dancing Girl Press, and I'm going to read the title poem called Embayed. Every city I live in is a rib ruptured from my rib cage. In turn, the city teaches me to cover my nakedness, offers me serpents' tongues, devious gods, poisoned apples bringing heartbreak. Then on I kayak, a rapid falling from a god's hair, home longing, the slim paddle pushing on in unsaid desperation. Then on, I'm free, giddy with flight. A smear of landings and takeoffs, borders melt, blue-blooded with anthems of loss. Our fathers' voices recede like balding hairlines from our memory. There are no Edens we know by now, only orchards of lament, passports for exile, and visas of unbelonging for the embayed. Holding the torch of liberty in a zari brocaded sari, jasmine in my hair, welcoming my sisters to a barricaded island, cities, the bells on my adorned feet, out there, a splintering water holding my arrivals and departures. I begin in one country, end in another, an upside down tree I root above, descend with many arms to embrace countries. My citizenry is questionable. I will not show you the pages of what seems like a stolen passport. The contours of my destiny are paradoxical. Bride sometimes, widow sometimes, paisley henna ripening and fading. If I'm hyphenated, I'm also conjoined. This sea of verse holds my secrets, invisible poems, my faces, this grove of syllables, my bread and rice, my river of content and discontent.
Beautiful.
So, thank you. I think
Absolutely beautiful.
Thank you, Megha. So just one poem, and I'll just maybe say a sentence or two about the title of the book. So embed, as I put in the chat, uh, it really fascinated me as a word with its multiple resonances. It's contained. It's also paradoxically being protected by the shore. It's to be trapped. It's to be caught in like a bay, and it's something that's bounded by barriers. And I also I play a little with the grammatical word because it's actually a transitive word. It's a transitive verb and it needs an object to complete its meaning. But I don't use the object, the indirect object that's needed. So it's there suspended. And I felt that becomes a metaphor for immigration. So that's all about the title of the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Usha, for sharing. Yeah, when you told me about the title, I was like, wow, the title itself is like it's just like, brings you in. And the thing which about your poetry, which always which stands out is not only you bring the emotions, but the wordplay in your poetry is to some another level. And that speaks about your poetic craft. And I'm always drawn towards your poem. It's the strong image and coupled with beautiful emotions. So thanks so much, Usha, for this. Please post the link to your book if it is available or if it's forthcoming and if it's open
Hi.
for pre-order. And and the next poet I'm going to be inviting is Yamini Pathak. And Yamini Pathak is poetry collection is called Her Mouth, a Palace of Lamps. What beautiful title. It's coming from Milk and Cake Press in October 2025. I will post the complete bio in the chat and give the stage to Yamini. Uh, Yamini, you're welcome, and the stage is all yours. Please grace us with your beautiful poems.
Thank you so much, Megha. And thanks so much, Matwaala, for this chance to celebrate all of our books. This is my debut poetry collection, Her Mouth, a Palace of Lamps. It's forthcoming this October, so I don't really have a link to share right now. But to tell you a little bit about it, the collection is both a resistance against silencing as well as a quest for a voice. The title comes from a line in one of my poems in which I'm thinking of the feminine mouth and voice as a source of abundance and light. Because I want to claim a voice that speaks and sings, the collection is shaped in the form of a ragini, the feminine counterpart of a raga, which is the basic container for melody in Indian classical music. So I'll start with the opening poem in my collection, and its title simply Prelude. I first sang Rag Durga at the tender age of 9, named for the mother goddess who travels the 3 worlds astride a lion. The 5 notes in her pentatonic scale fell upon me like dappled moonlight, cool, underpinned with mysterious desires on the threshold of my child imagination. For Durga must be sung in the 2nd division of night. She calls up Shringar, the erotic, and its kaleidoscope of emotions. Thus it is in Indian classical music. Families of ragas and raginis, scales and their consorts, song and shadow, We drink and drink song until we can swallow no more, until shadow swells to become song. This next poem begins, "What a good girl," said everyone, while I filled my larynx with butterflies and sucked my thumb to hold them there. The fan of wings beating in the space between two words. Alone then, leaning into the desert, I learned the color of thirst, the lurching gait of camels, the crunch between teeth in the aftermath of a sandstorm. Peacocks, with their bottom heavy strut, dragging emeralds in the dust. The flickering throat of night, innocent of city lights.
Mm.
And then this next poem is a it's their poems are written towards my maternal lineage. This is called Heirloom. Unlucky crows, eclipsed moons, track the young widow. Husband eater, flap the tongues of incessant bells, goaded her to river's edge, until the waters rose to say, "Go look after your babies." To be a guest under your own skin, I know how it feels. To walk an earth that doesn't sing your name back to you. Conjurer of flames thrown over bedtime skies, her epic tales of demons and devas trapped us in the magic maze, and the arrow aimed at the reflected eye of a fish found its mark, made us children clutch and sigh. To my grandmother of the unembroidered saris, it's unseemly, clap the accusers, for widows to wear anything but white, no color allowed. In mute defiance, her hair shone black her whole life. And this final poem is the poem from which the title of my collection comes, and it's called Ode to My Mother's Mouth. Kali, the bone dissolver, her tongue flames true red, her voice hums with lioness blood. My mother's mouth, brimstone, flour, and ghee, slain chicken and prayer. My mother's mouth, a palace of lamps. In her hall of benevolent mirrors, my reflection is dancing. Thank you so much for listening.
It's such a treat to listen to your poetry, Yamini. It's not only the stunning imagery, but it's like it titillates all your senses, everything, song, like hear, taste, smell, everything. Your poetry brings the whole thing, and it's beautiful. And I've read all your other poems, like, wherever I can find them. You seriously have a gift of writing like beautiful poetry and evocative and with stunning imagery. And please share the link to your website. I know you have a website, and you can go, and there, and all of us, like, explore each of the websites and know about all the previous work and the forthcoming works that is going to be there. And thank you so much, Yamini, again. And now we reach the end of the showcase, and I'm going to be closing it with my fourth book of poetry, which is called Language of the Wound is Love. And this is book, it came out in February this year by Flower Song Press. And I'm just going to like read two poems from it. And just to give you an idea of the reason behind the title, is like Language of the Wound is Love. How the title came through is, how the wounds which are inflicted on the humanity, whether it's about like sexual or gender-based discrimination or violence against women, sexual violence, or because loss, because of the migration and displacement, war, crisis, and even because of the toxic political structures in a country and around the world in the time that we are living in, all the wounds which are inflicted on us, they need healing through love. And hence the title, The Language of the Wound is Love. The book is divided into 5 sections. It's a collection of 58 poems, and each section focus on one particular issue. But the fifth section is called Brotherhood, and it kinds of bring it's the essence which the common theme which runs through the whole book, which ties the book together, is that we need empathy and compassion in this, like the times that we are living in, so that we are able to understand what the fellow human being is going through, but not everything is going to happen to you. So I use the quote of Plato in my book, is like, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a harder battle. So without taking any more time, the first poem I'm going to read is an ode to the poetry, because that's the whole thing which brings us together. It's an homage, and it's called Poem, and it's Hunger. Do you ever realize how the body reclaims itself, like the dried scar from its time of birth? You only realize its presence when you see it. Hunger reeks from your soul. And like water from a mother's hair wrung after a bath, it brings out scented memories of something pure and sublime. We all enter a poem knowing its hunger and emerge stripped naked of our emotions. There is always a death standing at the end of the sentence. Not every enjambment gives meaning. Some lines are meant to be left orphaned, like the day they found an old crumpled picture of my bomb city in my wallet. We all enter a poem knowing its hunger, like a night, feverishly trying to find its salvation in the open mouth of the bloody dawn. And I'm going to close the reading with the poem which is called Brotherhood, and it's the last poem in the book. And it starts with an epigraph by Martin Luther King Jr. And it says, we must live together as brothers or perish together as fools. Brotherhood. We are all broken, crumbled, rounded again, made from the same clay, caked and baked in the same unforgiving oven. We all have cracks in us from where the light gets in. Frayed at the border, pulling apart at the seams, peeling off and breaking down into pieces of our miseries. We are all the same, living under the same ashen, cloudless sky and blue moon in its reverie, breathing the same air, swooning over the same melody of the soul, crooning our necks to the same broken chords. In unison we roll. We all are the same, laughing and cracking up with welled-up eyes and bruises we endure, getting stabbed by the same knife and bloodied by the same bullet. Caste, creed, or religion doesn't seem to discriminate or beg to differ. We are all the same heartbeats, sliced and splintered into a million pieces, and the same God we worship, holding books with different verses. We all are the same from within, laughing at our scars with abject profundity. We are brothers and sisters, and together we shall live. And all this message of empathy, compassion, and solidarity, it brings us to the end of this beautiful event. And I want to personally thank every poet who gave me a chance to be part of this event, to showcase their book, the other beautiful things that they are doing. And please don't be a stranger. You guys have each other emails. Please reach out if you want to appreciate each other works and have more access to their websites and everything. And I'm just so honored that I get to showcase this event, and especially in such a memorable year, which is the Matwaala's 10th year of celebrations. Please visit matwaala.com if you want to know the various other events. It's not one of the events. There are various other events which they are doing throughout the year, and you can join them. They are both in person and at Zoom. And before I close this, I want to thank Usha and Pramila for giving me this opportunity and their gesture of kindness. And on to your Usha, and thank you again, everyone, for joining this.
I'll just say bye. I think, yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Megha. Thank you for doing this. Last year, Kashyana did it. Bye,
Yeah.
everyone. We'll all stay in touch. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye,
Have a
everyone.
beautiful rest
Take
of the
care.
day.
Thank you.